Hello everyone, my name is Chris McIntosh. I help teach the capstone courses. Today we're talking about defining a specific aim and project objectives. The project aim is a succinct statement of what you're trying to accomplish. What is your overall target or goal? You can start with the text, "The purpose of this project is." It should be a short statement of the outcome you're aiming for when you fix the problem you identified in your problem description. What do you need to accomplish for your aim? Objectives help identify the main steps in your project. They help organize activities to reach the goal identified in your project aim. An objective should consist of a measurable verb and what you would like to happen. Here's an example. Assess parents of adolescents with type 1 diabetes for their previous use of anticipatory guidance information. Ask yourself if you need to assess, develop, implement, or evaluate. You don't need to get specific about how you're going to go about this at this point. We will do that in upcoming assignments. These objectives are just general statements of what you intend to accomplish. You only need as many objectives as is reasonable for the project. You will need to determine your objectives with your project preceptor. Here are some examples of different types of objectives for different projects. This is a clinical quality improvement objective or project. Here's the objectives. Identify primary care providers' awareness and comfort levels regarding advanced care directives. Develop a practice-specific clinical guideline supported by the most current and evidence-based recommendations. Implement an educational presentation in a primary care setting. Evaluate provider and staff knowledge and a change in advanced care CPT code use pre to post clinical guideline implementation. Here are examples for program evaluation. Assess cancer patients' knowledge about integrative medicine and health interventions. Develop a presentation about potential benefits of mind-body awareness and Qigong. Implement a patient-accessible, modifiable Qigong course for cancer patients and their caregivers. Evaluate the impact of Qigong exercises on quality of life and fatigue in cancer patients and their caregivers. Here are examples of objectives for a translation study. Identify patients with HbA1c greater than 7% in a primary care setting. Develop a clinical practice-specific translation of Patent's 2015 patient-centered evidence-based intervention using problem solving. Implement the evidence-based intervention using problem solving to improve frequency of self-reported, self-monitored blood glucose testing. Evaluate pre- and post-test measures of self-monitored blood glucose testing and patient change in SMBG testing at 3 months. Here are examples of objectives for a needs assessment. Assess current local intensive care unit staffing levels, patient acuity, admission rates, and staffing models. Compare local findings with current research and identify potential barriers. Develop and propose a collaborative staffing model incorporating current research and ICU needs. Evaluate stakeholders' feedback on executive report and provide program implementation recommendations. Here are questions to think about. Do you need to assess or identify a phenomenon? Do you need to develop a guideline, protocol, or algorithm? Do you need to implement something? Do you need to evaluate something you developed or implemented? Every project should incorporate some kind of evaluation. As you're creating your objectives, you should assess if each objective should be evaluated individually or if you should create a separate objective dedicated specifically to evaluating the effectiveness of the project. Even if you don't get to see enough of your project completed to do the evaluation, you should still create an evaluation plan. This is a good time to think ahead about exactly what you hope to achieve or gain from each objective. Eventually, you should be able to fill out a table that lists each objective and the deliverables you hope to result from each objective. Be sure to focus on objectives that you personally will work on during your involvement with the project. Some projects are large and will take a long time to complete. You may only be participating in a limited part of the project. The objectives you describe in this paper should focus mostly on the work you personally plan to accomplish, not on large project goals that you won't be involved in if the project is large. Does one objective need to be accomplished before other objectives can proceed? Be sure to list your objectives in a logical order. This is a slide from another presentation I created outlining the rhetorical structure of the SQUIRE 2.0 manuscript you're going to write. Notice the arrows pointing to the specific game section and from the specific game section to the problem description section. The specific game section is where you describe what you would like the solution to your problem to look like and a very general description of how you intend to reach that solution. The main objectives you'll be instructed to include in the specific game section are represented by yellow circles in this diagram. The number of objectives will depend on the needs of the project. I use 3 here for illustration purposes. Aspects of the objectives you describe in this section will be addressed in subsequent sections of the paper. You'll notice there is a 4th objective shaped like a star with a dotted outline. That is intended to represent an optional evaluation objective. Later in the paper, you'll need to describe how you intend to assess the effectiveness of your project. In many projects, the evaluation of effectiveness can be performed for each objective individually. That evaluation is represented by a small blue star next to each of the main objectives here in this diagram. If there is some aspect of evaluating your project that wouldn't be adequately covered by evaluating each objective separately, you may opt to create a separate evaluation objective. Some projects may have a separate evaluation objective and some may not. Notice the problem description section and the specific game sections are colored green. They represent very pivotal sections of your paper. The problem description section describes the problem you need to solve. The specific game section describes your intended solution and the main steps to achieve that solution. The rest of the paper hinges on these 2 sections. You can see more examples in other project papers at the link on this slide. We have quite a bit of flexibility with these projects. Despite our best laid plans, sometimes things happen and circumstances change. Sometimes we have to adjust the plan on the fly as we're working on things. Luckily, the quality framework we work in and the manuscript template have flexibility built in. We can adjust things as plans and circumstances change. Your assignment is to write your overall project aim and general project objectives to accomplish that aim. You should evaluate the comprehensiveness of content coverage for your aim and objectives before turning in your assignment. Here is a prompt you can use with ChatGPT or some other chat tool to help you do that. You should evaluate how well your problem description and objectives align with each other before you turn in your assignment. Is the problem and ill effects you describe in your problem description addressed by the objectives of the project? Here is a prompt you can use with a general purpose chat tool like ChatGPT to help you assess this section alignment. You should evaluate how well your available knowledge section and objectives align with each other before you turn in your assignment. Is the evidence you describe in your available knowledge section related to the objectives of the project? Here's a prompt you can use with a general purpose chat tool like ChatGPT to help you assess the section alignment. Avoid an overly long specific game statement. At most, your specific game should be a sentence or two. The specific game is a statement of the conditions you're shooting for after the completion of the project if it is successful. Avoid extremely detailed descriptions of the objectives in this section. Detail will come later in the paper. Each objective should probably only be a single sentence describing the overarching goal of that objective. Avoid overly ambitious projects with too many objectives. Focus on the work you personally will be involved in. You should probably have 3 to 5 main objectives. List objectives in a logical order. If one objective needs to be completed before another one can begin, it should come earlier in your list. That's all we'll do in this video. There is more to come.